And welcome back to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics and podcasts such as this one, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording today's episode on Tuesday, February 21st. And joining me as always is Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, lots of people in the marketplace trying to interpret, talking about the housing market right now. Someone that's like picking up some traction on LinkedIn is a gentleman by the name of Alfonso Peccatiello. And he had put together a piece that, as you and I looked at it, we're sort of we have more questions than answers here. He's talking about home prices declining, and he threw a number out there. And it kind of like, it resonates. When we see things like this, it kind of resonates with us, like some of the YouTubers that are out there that put the Armageddon pictures behind them and the gigantic letters that say, the crash is coming, or it's happening now.
It's been the end of the world since 2017, Chris.
Yeah, I know. But Alfonso Peccatiello's marker is home prices declining 20%. And, basically calling his shot there tied directly to a quote unquote function of mortgage rates. So, not to pick on this guy, in any way, shape or form. I mean, you put data out there and it becomes interesting and it's worth talking about, right? What's your take?
I just think it's crazy. Let me pull back a little bit. It's not crazy. It's just not complete.
These kinds of stories bother you a little bit, right?
Oh, they do. Because it's like misinformation. You can't put a model, quote unquote model out there and say house prices are simply a function of mortgage rates, because they're not. We know that on the demand side, there are other factors that matter, right? That even if mortgage rates increase today, as they have in 2022, where they doubled, that if income had doubled, we wouldn't care if mortgage rates doubled. Nobody would care, because the mortgage payment as a share of income would have remained the same. Okay. The point is that if income increases, if your mortgage payment doubles, but your income also doubles, doesn't really matter. There are other factors that influence the demand for housing. There are multi-factors on the demand side and the supply side that influence house prices. On the demand side, we have income or disposable income. We have mortgage rates. We have non-housing wealth, like stock market wealth. When you see yourself getting rich, you go out and buy stuff. We call that a wealth effect. And so these factors matter for whether or not people want to buy more housing. Demographic trends. If I'm sitting at home and my wife and I are expecting a new baby, we're going to want to buy a bigger place. We're not going to bring a new baby into a studio apartment. All of these factors matter on the demand side. And then on the supply side, you have natural constraints. Places that are near coasts or mountains will tend to build less. Man-made constraints, building approval delays and land use restrictions. Those are matter on the supply side. And the combination of all these factors together is demand and supply. Basic economics is what's going to determine where house prices are going to go. And so this gentleman from the macrocompass.com put together a post where he says, mortgage rates increase X percent. And historically, the change in mortgage rates has had X percent impact on house prices. And I just think it's incomplete. Got to tell the full story. Before we got to the pandemic housing boom, look back at data from, even 2016 and on, right? I think between 2016 and 2020, the housing market was undervalued. And when house prices started increasing, they were first playing catch up. And the reason I say that is because, research shows us that a 1% increase in household real disposable income raises house prices by roughly 1.5%. A 1% increase in net financial wealth raises house prices by roughly 0.6%. And a 1% increase in the housing stock, on the other hand, a 10% increase in the housing stock per capita will reduce house prices, or an increase in the mortgage rates will push down house prices. When you take all those factors together, my back of the envelope math shows that basically between 2016 and 2022, house prices adjusted for inflation should have increased by at least 34%. And that, they should have continued to increase during the pandemic. Of course, mortgage rates fell. And so that, not only did mortgage rates fall in 2020, but even though lots of people weren't working, real incomes increased, and the stock market went gangbusters.
I mean, it fell off a cliff and then it went gangbusters, but yes.
Exactly. And it went gangbusters. Today we're raising interest rates and the stock market is defying expectations, right? Defying the odds. The S&P 500 was up 74% since the end of 2016. I mean, just think about that, all those factors. And so I think that, people should be very careful what it is they put out there because it's going to influence other people. I just don't like it when people try to cause a panic. There's no reason to cause a panic. And last point, there is still a large housing unit deficit in the United States. There's still very much so. Some of my research shows roughly 3.6 to 4 million units are missing still. And so that is going to cause resistance to a price decline, to a house price decline. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Hey, and I mean, you are standing your ground on the need for more housing. That's been your point of view, I think, as long as I've met you, that we've had a shortage in this country. I appreciate it. Look, we're not looking to slap anybody around on everyday economics, but I'll tell you, you fight an uphill battle to try to thread the needle with audience with regard to useful information that also is interesting enough to consume. And I think that you're doing a fine job of that.
And the housing market needs a healthy correction, but you can't throw numbers out there like 20%, a 20% decline, because it just doesn't make much sense.
I appreciate that. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.